Hi, my name is Dr.
Gaukhar Baidildinova.
This video is a part of my lectures on evidence-based medicine and epidemiology. This lecture is about clinical trials classification. Clinical trials fall into two broad categories. The first is observational studies, where researchers, doctors, simply observe healthy individuals or patients and do not intervene. In contrast to observational research, we have experimental or interventional research, when the researchers influence a research subject. It's easier for me to say patients, but often they are also relatively healthy individuals. Under intervention, we assume that people who were given medications or other treatment methods were tested on them. It can be also the study of diet or exercise effect. We can describe individual cases or make conclusions based on the population. We will go with you from less reliable evidence to stronger evidence. That is, from the bottom of the pyramid to the top. Individual observational studies include a case report or case study. A case series is when several patients with similar symptoms are described. These two types are not always explicitly distinguished in various sources, so I have placed an approximate equal sign between them. Based on population, we have three types of clinical trials. First are the cross-sectional ones. The second type is the case control study. The third type is cohort studies. Cohort studies are in turn subdivided into retrospective studies and prospective. Experimental studies can be controlled studies, when we have a control group with whom we compare the results. In contrast, there are uncontrolled studies. Controlled trials can be randomized. In these studies, you assign subjects to groups at random, in some cases, literally by flipping a coin. However, in modern research, randomization is done electronically. If you are not randomizing, your study is called a non-randomized study. I also have 2 paid courses on Udemy. The Critical Assessment of Clinical Studies teaches how to read and critically evaluate clinical studies. It's a very great course. The same as my second course, Scientific Writing, where I tell all the nuances of how to write a scientific article or dissertation. Links are in the description box. Now, let's take a more conscious look at the hierarchy. I hope it takes on a new meaning for you. At the bottom, we have observational studies based on individual cases. Higher is observational, but when we observe a large number of people already, rather than drawing conclusions based on a few cases. The asterisk is still the same, RCTS. Somewhere, non-randomized trials are directly under RCTs. In some sources, they are equated with cohort studies. However, it is important to know that this hierarchy is not dogmatic and depends largely on the quality of the study. Thus, a high-quality cohort study is rated higher than a low-quality randomized trial. Therefore, in this illustration, the boundaries between the stages of clinical trials are depicted as waves rather than a straight line. At the same time, it is worth realizing that systematic reviews and meta-analyses are not a particular type of evidence, but a magnifying glass through which we look at studies. When someone from the scientific community has read all the clinical trials on a given issue and critically evaluated them. And the other point is that the quality of systematic reviews cannot be superior to the quality of the clinical trials included, just like you can't get a tasty soup using spoiled food. There are other heated debates about the hierarchy of evidence, but let's not go into them. I'll leave links to a couple of articles on this topic in the description if you're interested. The last type of study in this lecture are pragmatic trials. They assess the effectiveness of a treatment in real-world conditions and thus are evaluated higher than experimental designs.